Well, folks, it's great to have Dr. Kirk Elliott back with us again. Always great updates for us every single week. There's changing tides. It's unbelievable. You can reach out to him anytime by going in the description box below, andweknow.com/gold. You can simply click on that link and you will have someone helping you out with the future, your IRAs, and more precious silver and precious gold. We love all of the work that they're doing to support everyone. And it's just great to have you back again and get another update.
Well, it's so good to be back with you. I mean, sadly, LT, we're living in a time where there's never a dull moment for financial news. I mean, there's just not. And it's like people, when I used to teach economics in college, it's like I would have everywhere from the intro class as freshmen to the upper level classes as seniors. And, a lot of times I was a guest lecturer. There was one semester when I actually did teach a whole semester because the econ prof was on maternity leave. And she said, "Hey, Kirk, I know you're busy, but could you come in and teach this class?" It's like, oh, do I have to have office hours? It's like, I have full time. I do what I do, right? But I did it. And you know what? Economics is normally so boring and just awful. But you can make it fun and you can make it apply to life. And I got these kids they just lit up, right? They got it. And I was so excited. And so try to do that every single week, trying to distill this hard information into something that makes sense, right? So the biggest thing that I see right now is, people might be shocked. It's not the Israel-Hamas conflict. Now that is big, right? It's going to cause oil to go through the roof. People are going to die. This local war is going to turn into a regional war and then something greater. That's truly what I believe is going to happen over there, which is going to have this ripple effect through the economy globally, right? I think this is actually a big deal. But what's a bigger deal than that is our debt. So when you put it into perspective, LT, it's kind of crazy. Oh yeah, look at this chart. I mean, so you go throughout time and the debt would grow a little bit, but it was almost like flatlined. It was just barely growing. And then you go to like 2000 is when it really started to kick into high gear. Well, actually, when you look at the early 70s, like 1971,
right?
Nixon took us off the gold standard forever. He closed that gold window, so not even nations could trade back and forth with gold. Well, in 1971, on that's where you see the exponential growth starting to happen, right? So because at that point, you could just print money by fiat. You could just print it by decree, and it started to turn into monopoly money.
Right.
Well, then you saw in 2000, after 9/11, they had to try to stimulate the economy again. And so then you see another kind of big upswing. And then you see 2009. Okay, that was the big one. That was when policymakers throughout the world started to basically adhere to a zero interest rate policy program. ZIRP is what it's called.
Right.
So ZIRP meant cheap money, lower the cost of borrowing, print a ton of money, and get it out there. And so people could keep the economy afloat, right? It's like just almost like build it and they will come sort of a thing.
Right.
But you look at what's happened since COVID, in 20, it's like, oh my word. Yet another almost straight up parabolic move, because now it's out of control. So guy named Stanley Druckenmiller, he's a billionaire hedge fund manager. He was interviewed earlier in the week. I think it was on Wednesday. I think it was on Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday. And what did he say? He said, the federal government's spending like drunken sailors, and we need to cut entitlements if the country is going to survive. It's like, ooh, why did he say cutting entitlements, right? It's like, normally liberals don't like to cut entitlements, right? So
that's right.
But why would he say that? So I'll tell you why. When you look at what we bring in as a nation It's about $3.8 trillion a year in federal tax revenue. So all of your income taxes going in, that's how the federal government makes money.
Right.
About 3.8 trillion. How much is of that 3.8 trillion is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, women and infant children programs, food stamps, all those entitlements and mandatory payments? So that would be roughly 80% of that. Literally 80% of everything we bring in as a nation is now going out towards entitlements or mandatory payments. So doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, it's like, well, how does the country actually survive on the 20% that's left over? I mean, if that's just, you still have infrastructure and defense and education and running the country. And what about the interest on our national debt, which is now $1 trillion because the debt's going through the roof? It's like, of course, they're never going to balance the budget, ever. Right. I don't care what politician comes in and says, we're going to force balancing the budget when I become a legislator. It's like, no, you're not. Because if you did, you would have to cut spending. And what spending do you cut? Well, 80% of your spending goes towards entitlements. And politicians right now kind of view people as votes and not really as people, right? So they're never going to do that. They want to keep people, they don't want to cut off the hand that feeds them, so to speak, right? So here's where we are. This is an era which to me is very reminiscent of readings that I've done studying how civilizations fall, of the Roman Republic, right? The Roman Republic didn't die because of invading marauders, invading their borders. They crumbled from within, right? Complete moral decay, loss of character. They fell. Their economy was crippled because 1/3 of the population of Rome was getting public assistance at the time. 1/3. It's like, man, we're at 80%. We're way worse, right? So you look at what's happening now. We go back in time to the beginning of our nation. Okay, 1776. Our debt was zero. Then go all the way to 1980. 1980, when Reagan became president, what was our national debt back then? It was a little less than $1 trillion. So it was like $980 billion. Okay. So that's 204 years, 1776 to 1980, to actually accumulate $980 billion worth of debt. This is important because I want to put that into perspective. Last month, in 30 days, we added $600 billion to our national debt. So what took 204 years to accumulate $950 billion, we just added $600 billion in 30 days. It's like, no wonder Druckenmiller says we're spending like drunken sailors, and we've got to cut this spending, because the aftermath of that is an ugly decline, right? Because we simply can't afford it. It's $600 billion in 30 days. That puts us on pace for $7.2 trillion of debt accumulation for the year.
Right.
Oh my word. 7.2 trillion in 1 year. It took us 204 years to get not even $1 trillion, right? I mean, this is really, really, really out of control, LT. So now what makes this worse, which is, you and I have talked about this probably on and off over the last month, which is the BRICS nations taking away the petrodollar status. There's no built-in demand for our currency anymore. So now when we print, there is really going to be ramifications, big ramifications. So what happened on Wednesday of this last week? Well, the Fed met, and Jerome Powell paused interest rates. He paused them. There was an expectation that they were going to maybe raise a quarter and then pause. Right. We pause them right now. And why? So the narrative is, we're doing a really good job, and we're winning this war against inflation. We're winning it, right? So therefore, we don't have to keep raising rates. Also on Wednesday, I saw this. I was flipping through the stations at the office, right? I was working, And here's Biden shows up on TV speaking in Northfield, Minnesota. And he's bragging about the economy and how they're going to have all this infrastructure development in rural America. And,
Right.
it's great. And he said, because of Bidenomics, we've won the war on inflation. Because of Bidenomics, we've got wages going up. Because of Bidenomics, we've got more jobs being created than jobs lost. And it's like, dude, that guy's living in la la land, right? It's like none of that's true. I mean, literally, everything that he said was not true. It's like, wow. And there's people cheering and clapping. It's like, yeah, go, Mr. President. That's awesome. You're amazing. It's like, dude, the only thing he's amazing at was lying. Because it wasn't true. So because of Bidenomics, we've got now wages that are in decline.
Right.
We've got capitalization pressures at banks. They don't have money. And we're entering into what I think is going to be a very ugly year economically in 2024, because I think it's going to be a really bad holiday season for retail sales. And if that holiday season is bad, which they're predicting it's going to be ugly, I mean, Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, the people who buy cardboard boxes